Miss Erin here at the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. Welcome to another Pajama story time. I thought that we could talk a little bit more about Grant Wood today. He's an artist we've talked a little bit about before in other Pajama story times, but I thought that we could talk about where he's from, which is right where I am and right where our museum is, Iowa. He was born on a little farm outside of Anamosa, Iowa, and then later on he and his family moved to Cedar Rapids, which is where our museum is. In fact, when he was grown and he had a little more time to create his artwork, he actually had a studio / apartment here in Cedar Rapids that our museum now owns and operates, which means that you can come and visit the place where Grant painted most of his famous paintings right here in Cedar Rapids, and it's free, so come check it out because it is very cool. Later on, he actually took a job with the University of Iowa, and so then he moved to Iowa City. So Grant spent a lot of time here in Iowa. He was very fond of Iowa, and he liked to create artwork about Iowa, including this piece behind me. Now, he had a patron, David Turner, which means that David Turner paid Grant for his artwork, to create artwork for him. Well, one of the things that he created was a portrait of David Turner's father, this guy. This portrait is called Portrait of John B. Turner, Pioneer. And this painting actually is kind of important in Grant's career because he was changing his styles from kind of an impressionistic style, which was very popular, and what he had learned when he traveled to Europe. And he was changing it more to reflect what it was like here in Iowa, in his home. So this style of his portrait here is a lot different than what came before it. It's kind of new, it's kind of different for him, and it was very impressive to other people, so much so that this painting won first place at the Iowa State Fair. Kind of a big deal. This painting is actually really fun too because it tells a story and it kind of has a little bit of a sense of humor in it too, which is very much like Grant would. This guy had kind of a sense of humor as well. So Grant painted John B. Turner in front of a map of Iowa, kind of to show how this important guy was related to the place where he was from, where he lived. Well, John B. Turner kind of joked that it was a portrait of two old maps, meaning his face looked kind of like an old map, which is funny because when I show you up close, Grant kind of worked in a little joke of his own about his face being an old map. Mr. Turner had joked that this picture was actually a portrait of two old maps, meaning he thought his face was old and wrinkly like the map behind him. So I'm not sure if it was his idea or if it was Grant Wood's idea to do this. But one of them thought that it was clever to paint the line of the Cedar River coming in to the side of Mr. Turner's face, meets up with his glasses there, and you can follow the line of his glasses through his face and out the other side, and it meets up with the other end of the Cedar River. One of the other cool things about this portrait is that you can see in the map of Iowa behind Mr. Turner that there are counties from Iowa where Turner was from. Grant kind of removed a whole column of counties from the real map so that it would fit together better the way he wanted it to look in his painting. So there's actually some pieces missing. But the important parts for John B. Turner are all in here. And then along the border of the painting, it shows scenes from life in Iowa. So you'll see horse-drawn carriages and buildings and a lot of the things that you would see if you were in Iowa at that time. Now, one of the other cool things about this portrait is that at some point, it had been in a different frame. The frame that it was in before was an oval-shaped frame. So when we get up close, you can actually see where the paint is different where that frame would have been. So I thought that today I would share with you some stories about Iowa. And this first book is called Love is All Around Iowa by Wendy Silvano. Now this is kind of a fun book because not only is this one about Iowa, but Wendy Silvano actually wrote several versions of this book, and there's probably one out there that's about where you live if you're from somewhere different. Check them out. You'll be able to find a lot of different places. But today we're talking about Iowa. So, love is all around Iowa. Love is a feeling that comes from inside. Everyone feels it. It can't be denied. But how do we know that it's there? What's the clue? How can we see it? Just what can we do? Love's all around if you just pay attention, in people and places too many to mention. Go look at the park, on the street, at the mall. You'll see love all over. It's big and it's small. You're gonna see these hearts in a lot of places in the story. All around Iowa, in cars and on trains, in taxis and buses, on boats and on planes, in Ames and Sioux City and Davenport too, you'll find there is love that will come into view. And they're fishing on the Iowa River. And this is Hawkeye Tours, because Iowa is the Hawkeye state. And back there in the back is the Iowa State Capitol. Right there on the lawn in Morrison Park is a mom with her babe hearing songs of a lark. That's a bird. She swaddles him, cuddles him, kisses his ear. That surely is love. It's perfectly clear. At a store in Des Moines, a girl gets a bear. She squeezes him, squishes him, ruffles his hair. It's clear that she loves him. She's smiling and bright. She tucks him in softly and gently at night. That same little girl, the very next day, sees a friend at her school who is too sad to play. So she sits down beside him and listens and shares, making sure that he knows there's someone who cares. One of my favorite things about this page is the little fish in the fish tank. It looks like they're smooching. Now the boy who is sad feels much better, you see. So he runs home all happy to play with McGee. They romp and they frolic, they fetch and they run. It's certain he loves him. They're having so much fun. You can see how love travels when shared with a friend. If everyone shares love, it never will end. From one to another, it spreads and it grows. You can't have too much, as everyone knows. It says, I heart Iowa. An Ankeny officer who helps change a flat, an Urbandale fireman who rescues a cat, The home team that makes the crowd cheer and clap. Each moment has love like a gift you unwrap. And it says Kinnick Stadium at the top. There's a father who sits at the table each night, helping out with the homework to get it just right. He's tired and busy, but that's love, you know? Giving up what you want to help someone else grow. It's not only people who show love, it's true. Just come take a look in the cool blank park zoo. The polar bear tumbles and rolls with her cub, and when they're finished, she gives him a rub. That's pretty cute. Where else is there love? Have we looked all around? I think we've forgotten. Love grows from the ground. In the meadows and gardens and parks, you will find that the earth shows us love of all shapes and kinds. And I bet you Grant Wood would agree with that. He painted many, many, many things that look like love growing out of the ground in Iowa. Wherever you look, love comes into sight. It's there in the morning, it's there in the night, but in the whole state of Iowa, the best love you'll find is a love that is gentle and selfless and kind. And this lady's shirt says, #1 Grandma. Looks like she's made some goodies for everybody. It's the love found at home. It shows up each day in things people do and in things people say. There's no greater love, I can tell you, it's true, than the love of your family. Especially for you. So this is Pajama Storytime, and I happened to be at the library and find a bedtime story about Iowa. So I thought that I would share a second book with you today. It's a very short book, it's a board book, and it's very small. You can see the barcode on the bottom from the library. It's called Goodnight, Iowa by Adam Gamble and Mark Jasper. Good morning, sunrise. Good morning, beautiful farm. Are we ready to share a wonderful day? That looks like Iowa. Happy spring flowers blossoming outside the Capitol building in Des Moines. We saw that in our last storybook. Hello, tall giraffes at the Blank Park Zoo. Hey, we saw the Blank Park Zoo in our last book too. They had polar bears, and this book has giraffes. Hello, kids coming to play at the Iowa Children's Museum. That's not that far from us. It's in Coralville. The Science Center of Iowa is a great place to discover and learn. That place is in Des Moines, and it's cool too. Both of those places are really fun. Greetings, historic Cable Car Square in Dubuque. Have you ever ridden on the 4th Street elevator? Now there's another one from Dubuque. Good afternoon, National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. That place is so fun. Good afternoon, boaters zooming around the Iowa Great Lakes. That looks like fun, especially since right now in Iowa it's very cold. Pedal hard, bikers, riding all the way across Iowa. The shirt he's wearing says RAGBRAI. That's the race across Iowa. Good day, Iowa State Fair. Don't eat too much cotton candy. Go Hawkeyes! Go Cyclones! Good evening, big rocking chair in the Amana colonies. Good evening, Cedar Rapids and Cedar River. That's right here. Good night, ice skaters learning to skate at Brenton Skating Plaza. Hey, we started off with good morning and then good afternoon, and now it's good evening. Look, the sun's going down. Good night, ice fishermen out on the frosty lake. Good night, walleye. That's a kind of fish. Good night, children of Iowa. Thank you for sharing a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us for another Pajama Story Time. Come back and see us again sometime. And if you have the chance and you happen to be in Cedar Rapids, come visit the Museum of Art too. Just make sure you put your mask on first for safety, but we'd love to see you. Thanks, everybody.